It's no secret the past few years have been tough on Williams, and this morning it was announced that the team, which has been family owned and run since its inception in 1977, is considering a partial or total sale in order to raise funds. To go over the story and the facts and to look at the potential future of the team, I'm joined by Autosport's Hayden Cobb and Luke Smith and motorsport.com's John Noble. Now, John, you were on the briefing call this morning. Can you give us an overview of what you were told?
Yeah, this is basically a strategic review to bring investment to the team. Obviously, the team's finances have taken a hit. 2 times finishing 10th in the Constructors' Championship in a sport where your prize money depends on your finishing position has been hard. We're in an era spending has gone up massively, and basically become the time where Williams has to decide we need extra investment. We need to look elsewhere. And as a company that's on a stock market, it has to be open with these things. I mean, normally teams can scout around for buyers or investors and do it privately or even secretly in the paddock and meet people behind motorhomes. But as a listed company, you've got to be honest and open about it. They've had to declare that, this is something they're looking at, and there's various options. It could be minority investment, it could be new partners, it could be a majority sale, and it could even be a total sale of the entire company. Whoever comes in, rebrands a name, and we lose Williams forever. I mean, this is one of the many options looking at, but it's going to move quite fast.
So is it safe to say that this is a move from Claire to ultimately save the team?
I think that's the bottom line. I mean, people are focusing on the potential sale aspect, which is one of the options there are. But I think they've come to the conclusion that, what Frank Williams always wanted, he didn't want to sell the team in the past, but more than that, he wants a team that's secure for the long term, secure for as long as possible, and keeps racing in Formula One. And this is their step to do that. This is about saving, the team, securing the future of the team, a bigger and brighter and better future.
And obviously another piece of news that came out this week was about the agreement of the new regulations and the new budget cap. A lot of the teams were very welcoming of such an announcement and agreement, but for a team like Williams, was this just a case of too little too late?
I think what's happened, because we've seen this week, we've got announcements from McLaren, announcements from Renault. I think the F1 world's starting to get back in motion now that the worst of the lockdowns behind us, which have kind of paused a lot of things. Now I've seen progress of meetings. We've had this rules agreement, and I think actually now for Williams is the perfect time for a sale. We've got cost cap rules which are going to guarantee costs come down. We've got these aero balancing development rules that are going to even things up and give teams like Williams the opportunity to move forwards. So we've got a brighter, better future for Formula One. And, if you're trying to sell your assets and sell what you've got, knowing the future's a better place to be rather than somewhere that isn't very good for you, I think it's a good place to be.
Kind of contradictory, though, to that announcement was the coupled announcement that they are terminating their title sponsorship deal with Rocket effective immediately. Now, that might seem counterintuitive considering that this announcement is all about raising funds. So, Luke, is there any understanding as to why that's happened along with this announcement?
Well, Williams remained very coy on the matter. I think obviously there's a lot of sort of contractual and legal things involved. They have to be very, very careful with how they talk about it. But Claire said on that call that Williams had met all of its own contractual obligations with Rocket. So that's all that was really said on the matter. Rocket has come out and issued its own statement saying that it remains committed to its motorsport activities, but there was no sort of bad blood, no sort of pop shots at one another. So that all suggested it was sort of quite harmonious in that regard, and a world away from the Rich Energy saga that we saw last year, for example. But it is quite a strange bit of news, because we did see Rocket and Williams joined up for the start of the 2019 season. That was sort of a real partnership that I think both parties were very, very excited about. We saw a lot of Rocket branding on the car, of course, the title sponsorship as well. At the end of the season, Rocket even paid for most of the Williams mechanics to go to their Christmas party in Germany and have a tour of their breweries and things like that. And that was a real sort of strong partnership. And they really sort of spoke about how much they wanted to work with the team and they're excited for the future moving forward. So whether the sort of COVID pandemic, whether that's maybe moved the goalposts a little bit and changed things, I think that probably comes into it. But yeah, there isn't any sort of like there's no bad blood between the two parties, I think, coming out of this, which is good to see.
Now, hypothetically speaking, because obviously as you've said, there's a lot of contractual obligations that we don't always get party to the information around. But hypothetically speaking, is having a team that does not have any title sponsor, does that potentially make it easier to sell?
I think that would come into it. I think maybe if you did see a company that perhaps wanted to buy the team and get involved, and think, well, we could put our stamp on it as well with the renaming and a rebrand without worrying about a title sponsor to sort of perhaps get in the way. I think that could be of interest. And I think we've also seen that the sort of sponsorship model in F1 is changing a lot recently. I think McLaren is perfect proof of that. I mean, they do not have a title sponsor, but Zach Brown and his team have worked very hard to get all of these sort of smaller partners and principal partners, I think they're called. And it's built up a really, really good portfolio that's really strong. So I think Williams will be looking to do something like that moving forward. They're working with a new agency who I think are going to be helping on that side of things. And I think that is that's certainly a good sign. Like, that's good. They're sort of thinking about things they have to do for the future. And losing a title sponsor is never a good thing. But I think at a time when you're trying to sort of raise the profile of the team and obviously look at a potential sale or sale of shares, I think having that as a potential sort of extra carrot on the end of the stick to say there's a type of sponsorship going, I think that could be of real interest to people.
And obviously at the top of the show, John mentioned how the partial or total sale is just one of many options that they are looking at. But in order to secure survival, Hayden, what are their options, and how would any of those play out, do you think?
Well, at the moment it is tricky to sort of be certain, because it could be a partial investment, like you say, or a total sort of takeover. It's something that Frank Williams and Claire Williams have been strongly against for many, many years. And like John said, you don't want to lose the Williams name. But ultimately, it can sort of change dramatically depending on what level of investment is available to them. It could be a case of being the right time and the right place in terms of lowering costs and lowering opportunities because of the lack of investment and money going around at the moment. And if there's a new investor that wants to come in and sees it at a low price, as it were, rather than trying to attack the top of the grid, and you would expect prices and costs to be much higher, that would obviously be a trickier proposition. And looking at sort of as a wider context, obviously we're only talking about Williams here, but we know that this issue and costs is not just solely related to Williams. You look across the whole Formula One grid, the last few weeks there's been cutbacks and announcements that are pretty drastic, and there'll be more to come. We've seen Renault have announced today that they have massive job cutbacks worldwide across their company. And although they've committed themselves to two of the Formula One project, you've got to expect that to be hit, certainly with the cost cap coming in as well. Mercedes have batted away rumours about stepping away from one or changing their sort of works team. And McLaren have even cut back on their jobs on the Formula One team. So you would think Williams are in a position where it's certainly not pleasant. And when Claire Williams, I think it was last year, said that she was getting out the champagne for the cost caps and for the rules that were coming this way, it might be a cheaper version or brand of champagne, maybe going to the Prosecco. But certainly there's still room to be optimistic if the right pieces come in and the right investments that suit all parties arrive.
Yeah, and I think that's important as well to know that this is kind of almost part and parcel of Formula One, right? There are so many weird family histories of teams that have been bought and sold and rebranded and come back. You know, the current Toro Rosso team is the Minardi team essentially, and part of that was actually in the contract to keep a lot of the Minardi infrastructure and team in place when they became Toro Rosso. So, you know, I guess fans at home might be slightly worried because Williams is such a massive name in Formula One. But do we have anything to worry about, or should we take this actually as a positive step forward for Williams?
I think it's fair to sort of decide it if you're a traditionalist Formula One fan, and like you say, the Williams heritage, the Williams name, it ranks hugely and highly in sort of the history of Formula One, and you certainly wouldn't want to lose it on a very quick whim. But I guess equally that could be really attractive to potential investors, and saying, look at this team and the history and sort of the everything that's got around it. it could be one of the most sort of attractive propositions to a new investor. But whether that comes at the cost of losing the Williams name, that is a big risk. It could potentially happen.
Exactly that. I couldn't agree more. But John, what are you looking for next? How is this story likely going to progress, do we think? What do people want to be looking out for on our websites, for instance?
Well, I think I asked Claire, what sort of time frame are you looking at? Because, is this something you're looking for 12 months time, 2 years time? And she said she's talking actually 3 to 4 months time. They want to move quickly on this because I guess they want to, shore up the future now. Now we know what the cost cap level is coming in at $145 million for next year. They've got a framework of rules. Today will be about putting their hands up to those potential investors and making that, we're out there, we're open to a deal. And you always hear stories of people interested. So I guess the next few weeks will be, those parties coming forwards. Could there be a manufacturer even? If you're a manufacturer looking to come into a big company, it's a good opportunity. So I think things will, some candidate names I'm sure will emerge. I'm sure the silly season, we had the driver market explode a few weeks ago. And I'm sure on this front as well, we will hear a lot of names. Some will be correct, some will be out. But I think, by the time we get to September time, hopefully we're back racing again, things will have moved on and we'll get some good news. Because I don't think anyone wants to see Williams fail, or a team that, I think it's famously said, isn't it, that everyone's second favourite team is Williams. That, people have got they're quite tribal towards Ferrari or McLaren or Mercedes, but everyone wants to see Williams do well. So I think it would be good for them, good for Formula One, if they can get a good investor and a much, much more secure future.
Hear to that. So make sure that you are checking out both autosport.com and motorsport.com as the story develops. We'll be keeping you up to date as much as possible. Make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're not already. There'll be tons more news and feature content coming your way. But until next time, thank you guys so much for joining me, and we'll see you next time.